Hey there, it's Tiffany, and this is Talking with Tiffany. Today, we are doing an episode on encouraging emotional growth, and I have my wonderful, beautiful daughter, Jay, here to talk to me about this. I chose this conversation because I noticed that a lot of us grew up where we were encouraged to hide our emotions and to not necessarily express our emotions. And what I've chosen to do with my child and my children, actually, I don't have one, is to encourage their emotional growth so they can grow in that and be able to manage things. So, Jay, if I could ask you, what is growth to you?
Growth to me is progressing, not being in the same area, moving forward in a good way, and just not staying in the same place. Like we're moving up, we're not going down. So it's just progressing.
Gotcha.
basically.
I give the same definition. Growth to me is just a physical change where you can actually see it physically transforming into something else. And like she said, that's not the same. What are emotions to you?
They are different. They're not the same because I have a lot of emotions. I'm a teenager, so I feel everything. So and they're not. They're. I don't.
Just describe it best way you know how.
They're not permanent. Emotions are not permanent to me. I don't put them in a permanent thing because I feel so many things. So it's just there are many different things, but they're also not permanent.
Right. You had read me a definition. You said emotions are a subjective state of mind. And so to me, that means like in that moment, you are subjective to it. That's the subject of what you are doing, Mm-hmm. And so in my book, I use this word wheel. And so we're going to pop the word wheel on the screen. And so you can see that there's a lot of emotions that you can feel, and some of us stick in the area of just like fear, anger, disgust, surprise, sadness, happy. Those are the main ones. But then outside of that, a lot of emotions grow out of that. So, Jay, what do you think? What is emotional growth to you?
Well, being able to be more vulnerable, that's growing emotionally. Being able to express your emotions in the right way and associating them with, like my mom, when she puts up the word wheel, associating your emotions with the right words so we understand them better. Just understanding your emotions, that's growing for me.
Gotcha. Same here. And then I want to ask you, how have you experienced emotional growth?
Well, you present it every day. Like my mom, she used to never cry, and I never understood why. And then she sort of, I don't know, did you explain to me?
I mean, tell me what you think. Like, you're just going off your explanation and then.
Just her, being more vulnerable. Like her never crying, and then me seeing her break down and her being able to do that in front of me and show me that crying's not a bad thing. It's a way we express our emotion, and and cry. She's also shown me crying is not attached to just sadness. It's attached to joy. Like she cries like all the time, and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" And she's just happy. Like her just explaining that to me, and yeah.
That's good. And you're right, because I've experienced, as an adult, I've experienced a lot more emotional growth. But as a kid, I feel like I was stagnant, like I was stuck. Because I didn't have the parents that were able to understand emotions and honestly to understand growth. Yeah, they did grow, but I feel like my parents grew slowly because of their lack of ability to acknowledge their emotions. So for me, as I've been growing as an adult in my emotions, it's helped my children. It's helped them be able to understand like what that is and what that looks like for them. How do you think you've grown, like even just from last year to this year?
What do you mean?
Like
in a certain area?
Yeah, like even like managing, like for example, like how do you show your feelings? Because you used to be like,
well, for one, I used to just say them right in the spot, how I felt, and just like burst out. I mean, sometimes it still happens, yes, but like just learning how to go like step away, process what I'm feeling, and then coming back to my mom and explaining to her why I felt that way and what made me react that way. So just more so instead of immediately giving a reaction, learning how to respond.
Mm. Do you think that me being able to show you my feelings, but also explain to you when I'm having them has helped you through that?
Yeah.
How? Because like even when I'm angry, you explain to people like when I cry a lot, but and not that I necessarily cry a lot, but that I will show you that I'm happy or sad. But like
Yeah.
even when I'm angry or when I'm mad, like because a lot of times people don't understand anger. A lot of times people are like, oh, like you're very intuitive. So you when people are mad at you or something, you always feel like the weight of it. How have you been able to manage when I'm upset and not letting it affect you or how do you what does that look like for you?
Well, for one, usually when I ask if you're upset, you're a very honest person. Even though sometimes I feel like you're being dishonest, you're very like, you can tell me why you're upset in this moment, and you'll also like say, I need this amount of space. And this is why I'm upset, and I'm not upset because of this. I'm upset because of this. And you played your part in this. Then it helps me go back, reevaluate what I did. So then when you calm down, I could come back and then we could talk it out.
Same here with you though, because I think you being able to verbalize and articulate how you're feeling when you actually do calm down helps me like understand like okay, she can be mad in this moment, she can be upset because a lot I think as a parent I grew up that you weren't allowed to be angry. You weren't allowed to be upset. And so when you were a kid, when you got mad, you couldn't slam a door, you couldn't walk off huffing and puffing. And with these guys, it's just like how do I manage that but still allow them to experience that? So how do you think the way I love you and how I'm affectionate to you has helped you and encourage your emotional growth?
Yeah, like you figuring out my love language
Mm.
and showing that to me, especially with like words of affirmation, like her texting me like "Good morning, beautiful," or when I walk into the room, she's like, "Oh my gosh, you look so pretty!" Like that's like, wow, I'm loved, and even when I'm like I don't feel pretty or I know I don't look the best, like, "Oh my gosh, you're so beautiful," like stuff like that. Like she knows encouraging words. They show me that, oh, I matter, and you notice these things about me.
Right.
Even like even when you point out my flaws and stuff, like she's like, even though I feel like you're picking on me, you're being mean, like it's like she's helping me grow.
Would you be surprised that I didn't get that growing up? Especially how you see how your grandparents are now.
No, because you've also been very like open about how you were growing up, and this is also not something that like it's not always been a forever thing. Like this is not my mom has definitely grown. So I've gotten to see the bad, the good. I say for Jordan, yeah, this is like well because she was a bit younger, but like I've gotten to experience the toxic Tiffany
Right.
and stuff like that. So
You heard her, just toxic Tiffany. Toxic Tiffany. She got an experience of toxic Tiffany.
yeah,
A lot of us don't even recognize that our kids experiencing the toxic us. And I'm happy that she's able to even be bold enough to say that to me. And that I'm okay enough to accept that because how can I grow if I can't take constructive criticism from the people that experience me the most?
yeah.
You know?
She's also been very open about breaking generational curses. So I think that also plays into mm, like actually you do it so well that people outside of it might think like you gotten that as a kid, like you were raised with that, but the way that she does it and she's so like she's put a whole new thing on parenting.
A new spin on it. I feel like one of the things I did though was establish daily routines with, like you said, waking you up in the morning with texts. Good morning, beautiful. How are you? Even when she gets in trouble, I text her after she gets in trouble and say,
Oh yeah. Also another thing, reminding me that you unconditionally love me. That that was a big thing for me, like telling me that her love for me is unconditional, reminding me that.
Yeah, especially
Or
when you're in trouble.
yeah, when I'm in trouble, she still texts me and tells me I still love you, but you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And stuff. Because, it was you that kind of reminded me that how little Tiffany would feel.
Hmm.
How little Tiffany would always be questioning, like, oh my God, do they still love me? Because I know I just did this. And I constantly searched for that. Like, and you said something to me a few weeks ago and you said, Mom, sometimes I see little Tiffany come out when, what did you say? Do you remember?
When people hurt her,
Yes.
I see little Tiffany come out because, or like, I don't know if you talked about the car thing.
What car thing?
Papa.
Go ahead.
Papa gifted you with the car, like her never getting to experience that as a kid. Like she just gets like so happy, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like watching watching her like every day is might sound weird, but like is like watching your baby girl grow up. Like seeing her like when she gets excited like about the littlest things, like even when her parents do things for her, it's like, oh my gosh, like seeing that little kid in her.
Yeah, you're so right. And it's so funny because as she's saying, I'm tearing up because she's right. Like, I think some of us get so caught up with the timing of something happening. And I'm just so overjoyed that I get to experience it, right? Because you think about it and you're like, God promised you all this stuff, but he never puts a time on the promise. And so when the promise finally comes through and you're like, oh my God, I got it. It's like, oh my God, it's great. And I fully experience that, where as in others, some don't. Some are so worried about how long it took to happen. And I think I'm just okay with now saying, okay, it happened. I have to get past the point of how long it took, and things. What emotions do you not have control over?
I don't know. I feel like I have control over all my emotions.
You do?
Oh wait, what do you mean?
Like, is there one emotion out of you that you're just like, this is like how we have 3 dogs, right? And they're all in hierarchy of who listens the most. Which one of your emotions is disobedient, that just really just is like, okay, Jay, who cares that we feel that we're gonna do this today, or we're gonna be like, mine is joy. Mine is, I don't have control over that. I'm so joyful. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm happy. And you guys are like, why are you happy? And stuff like that. What's an emotion that you don't have control over?
When I'm sad.
Mm.
Like I don't enjoy being sad, but it's like just there. Like it's like, oh my gosh, sadness now. Like you were just in a room and now it's like But you've sort of helped me through that because like talking to God and being able to go to my mom, because that's an okay feeling to have, and being able to talk to someone. So something that I sort of have control over. So
And I think here's the thing, like, you have to first acknowledge what you don't have control over, right? In order to, like, because like if we show the word will again, if all these emotions exist, right? How are we supposed to control all these if you don't know which one, if you don't know how to identify them, right?
mm-hmm.
If you can't pinpoint them out, but they're all in this group, just say they're all shaded the same color, how would you know to fix it?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So I appreciate you acknowledging that it's sadness. And now when you see it, you're like, okay, I see you, sadness. Come on back.
Yeah.
Come on back. That's good. So how have you grown in the past year? Because COVID-19 hit, and I have gotten to talk to a lot of parents, and you went through something. You went through like just like a lot of other teens and stuff like that. You went through something, and we had to experience that with you. Tell people where you were last year and where you are now, because I think it's pretty amazing.
Last year, I was like, my room, terrible. My rabbit died. I'm gonna be honest. It was because of me. You're gonna think I am an animal killer, but I honestly let depression like really get hold of. And then like overindulging in food and then having that where I didn't want to eat food and I wasn't eating food because I thought that was the fix, and then throwing up on my food, and then expressing to my mom that I thought I was having an ED, and like just like eating disorder, bulimic, and then yeah, just going through that, and like a lot of things from when I was little coming back up, and me having to deal with that, and me having to go put boundaries up with family and people that I thought where I didn't have to put up boundaries, like people that I thought would already have those, would already know my limits, and having to remove a lot of people and being okay with that, having to get through that, and learning that I don't have to immediately say something when something happens, having to sit on some things that people have done to me and know that they have done it to me, and not being able to say anything because, yeah, and learning how to forgive. Big thing was forgiveness. So, just a lot of healing and,
Nice.
yeah. So,
And how, with that healing, because you said you told people where you were.
yeah.
And then, like, one of the things you spoke about is you said you thought you had an eating disorder. How are you battling that? Because people need to know, like, there are teenagers out there, there's people out there battling that. What is something that you use? Because it was something that you truly believed.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I feel like eating disorders is a real thing.
It is a real thing.
But also, me having to realize it was something within me and something that I could fight. It's not impossible.
Right. And I think you have to recognize that order means like in line, right? And disorder means out of order, right?
Mhm.
It's and so you just have to take the dis off the order and create order in your thing. And I remember having a conversation with you. Remember, I grabbed you by your face.
Yeah.
And we were in the hallway, and I just was speaking life into you.
Yeah, because I really broke down.
Yeah. And I mean, I was in there, and every encouraging word I could say to her to battle what was trying to tear her down.
Especially her, because I believe that it would be like, haha, like, you don't have that, like, type of thing. Like, even though I know that's not how she is as a person, it was like, I didn't feel like I could be vulnerable about that. But that, when she pulled me aside in the hallway and I broke down, and she just like really uplifted me.
It was so passionate. It was deep.
Yeah.
And I mean, it got really, and we were getting ready to leave somewhere. So it was like, this has her issue has prohibited her from wanting to leave the house and things like that. And so she has grown into an amazing, beautiful person, and who she always is to be. That was good. What advice would you give parents and kids and teens that have experienced the things that you have experienced? Like, just even in emotional growth, like, what advice would you give the parents just to be able to even say, like, don't do this or do this? Like, what would you give? Because you're really wise.
Be more open about your past, because when you're trying to hide like what happened to you from the past, your kids are unable to understand why you are the way you are in the present. As far as being more open about your relationship with your parents, like stuff like that, that really helped me with like understanding why my mom did certain things the way she did. And then when you acknowledge those things with your kids, or you fess up about those things and you talk about it with your kids, make a plan of how you can fix it. What can you do different? Like, even though your kids are gonna understand, I understand that happened to you in the past, but here's what I need from you now. Like, being able to take that in and say, okay, this is what happened. Then I need to forgive and be better for my kids, because we're a whole nother generation, and you guys needed completely different things. And unfortunately, you weren't able to get those, but now we have to figure out a way to get them to our kids.
Right. Right. And as a parent, I would give the advice of listening. Sometimes we forget the perfect skill of listening, and listening is something that you have to obtain and you have to get good at, because you're so quick to want to fix the problem yet you haven't even heard where the problem needs to be fine-tuned at. You just see the problem, but you don't see the fine-tunings in it and stuff like that. What advice would you give teenagers and kids?
Also realize you could grow too. It's not just your parents. Realizing I was also the problem, and always not always trying to guilt trip my mom, because yeah, I went through some stuff, but like I don't know, just know you can grow.
Yeah.
Like growth is everywhere. Like there's always room to grow. And yeah, try to be more open with your parents. Actually no, because some kids I understand, like your parents are not there yet to where you are able to do that. But expressing to your parents and coming up with smarter ways, or finding other words you could use when speaking to your parents, like for them to have understanding, like doing that type of stuff. I don't know.
No, that's good. I think that's really good. I agree totally with her, is that your parents might not be there yet. And there's a lot of parents that are not there yet. And, this is why we're creating this, because we see it. And we're like, we feel sorry for certain people because we're like, oh my God, that's such an easy conversation. Both parent and child are wrong, right? And we decided that we don't want to do that anymore. We want to have a healthy relationship, and I want to nurture her, but I want her also to be able to be nurtured, because when you get this certain age, they don't want to be parented anymore. And so I have to ask her a lot, is this a situation where you don't want me to parent you? And she is very wise, because she's like, wait a second. If you're saying you're not going to parent me, that means that you're not going to guide me. You're not going to help me. I don't know anything about this. No, but then she's telling me, but hey, but you can say it softer. You can say it this way. You can, explain to me what's going on. One story really quick. So Jay and I wanted Jay to try out for theater.
Oh yeah.
And Jay was like fussing, like, da, 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 because we're getting ready to transition into a new phase in our lives. And she came into my office, and she's just like, I don't know why you want me to do this, and da da da. She's just like fussing. And then it hit me, and I was like, a conversation with my mother that came up. And I remember prior to this conversation, my mom was like, I said, what did you think I was going to be growing up? And my mom said, I thought you were going to be a famous singer. And I said, what? And I can sing. I said, but you never encouraged me to do that. You've always deflected that. You've always been negative about it or whatever. And she was kind of taken back because she didn't even remember being like that. So in that moment when Jay was in my office talking about all this stuff, and I was trying to encourage her, I said, can you not do that to me? I said, I remember being the kid that never got encouraged to be great. I always got encouraged to do other things that would make my parents comfortable. Like, okay, Tiffany's fine. Like my dad used to tell me to go to the Air Force, and they denied me all the way down to the date because that wasn't my calling. And I always want to nurture and hone your calling. I always want to encourage you to your calling. So I told her, I was like, don't tell me not to encourage you.
Yeah.
Because I know what that feels like, not to be encouraged. And in that moment, it kind of hit her like,
yeah.
Dang.
Also allowing your parents to have room to grow. Like not always, well, you used to be like this. Well, why are you like this now? Like allowing, if it's good and you see it's for your being better, it's for you to be better, and it's helping them be better, let that happen. Like don't deflect it.
And I would say also one thing that Jay does that I love, and so does Jordan, they tell me when I'm killing it as a mom. They encourage me. So they don't just tell me the bad and the ugly. They encourage me in the good. And when Jay sees me doing so, she's like, Mom, you're killing it as a mom today, and vice versa. So just be mindful of that. Then that's how you encourage emotional growth for both of you. And do you have any wise words to leave the audience with before we chime?
I don't have any wise words right now. Let me be honest, this is my first time. So my mom getting me out of my comfort zone to do this, that was
huge.
That was huge. So this is like, still a little nervous.
And she did a great job.
Yeah. So I think this is great, but I promise I'll have wise words next time.
She'll be great.
Yeah.
But get this, you're too blessed to be stressed, so don't create that mess. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.